Like many survivors of narcissistic abuse, she realizes her good intentions have been exploited by someone who saw her empathy as a tool to further their own agenda. This scene also introduces us to the term flying monkeys, which will come up later as a crucial part of our analysis. Drawn directly from psychology, it's the actual clinical term that describes the enablers of a narcissist, individuals who do the abuser's bidding either knowingly or unknowingly, while perpetuating harm against the victim. Elphaba's horror and guilt only deepen when the wizard casually rationalizes his actions. The people need an enemy. His words echo the Machiavellian playbook, using fear to control the masses. But this is where Elphaba begins to resist. This moment is her breaking point, the moment she decides to stop being a pawn in his game. She turns away from the wizard and Madame Morrible, rejecting their vision of Oz and the corrupt system they uphold. This act of defiance is monumental. It's the first time Elphaba fully claims her agency, choosing to follow her own moral compass rather than succumb to manipulation. As bold and powerful as this move is, like most who dare to defy Machiavellian narcissists, Elphaba will soon face an extremely high cost for challenging their control. As the chaos unfolds and Elphaba tries to flee the wizard's palace, we see Glinda faced with a choice. Stand with her friend, who has just exposed the corruption and cruelty at the heart of Oz's power structure, or protect her own image and interests. And, true to her grandiose narcissist tendencies, Glinda's decision is swift and devastating. Rather than standing up for Elphaba, Glinda immediately turns to the wizard. She apologizes profusely for Elphaba's actions, distancing herself from her friend as if Elphaba's rebellion is some personal failing on her part. But it doesn't stop there. Glinda doesn't just cut ties with Elphaba. She actively offers to bring her back, to convince her to fall in line with the wizard's plans. This moment is a textbook example of narcissistic self-preservation. Glinda's primary concern isn't whether Elphaba was justified in her actions or whether the wizard is, in fact, the true villain. Her focus is entirely on herself, on maintaining her position in Oz's social hierarchy and ensuring she isn't associated with any form of dissent. And here's the cruel irony. If Glinda truly understood Elphaba, if she had ever bothered to see her for who she really was, she would know that asking her to align with the wizard's agenda is not only futile, but deeply insulting. Elphaba's entire identity is built on justice, integrity, and protecting the innocent. Values that stand in direct opposition to everything the wizard represents. But Glinda isn't interested in understanding Elphaba. She never was. Her actions here reveal a fundamental truth about her character. Glinda values her own reputation and opportunities more than she values the safety and freedom of her so-called friend. This is a hallmark of all narcissistic archetypes. It's at the very core of their dysfunction. And now we come to gaslighting, arguably the most horrifically devastating and mentally abusive tactic in a narcissist's arsenal. Gaslighting is the deliberate act of making someone question their own reality, memories, or perceptions. It's not just lying. It's a calculated manipulation designed to break the victim down and make them doubt their ability to trust themselves. Blame shifting is another insidious tactic used to avoid accountability. By redirecting fault onto the victim, the abuser maintains control and power. This constant shifting of blame can leave the victim feeling perpetually at fault, eroding their self-esteem and sense of reality. Couple this with gaslighting, and it becomes deliberate psychological torture. It is evil, pure, and calculated, designed to break a person in every possible way. For context, let's clear up a common misconception. These days, the term gaslighting gets thrown around casually, often to describe any situation where someone feels misled or disagreed with. But true gaslighting is far more sinister. It's about control. By distorting the victim's sense of reality, the gaslighter isolates them, making them increasingly dependent on the gaslighter for truth. This is true psychological warfare. That's why throwing the term around casually is so problematic. It reduces how seriously people view these claims, further silencing the voices of those trying to escape. With that in mind, let's look at I Hope You're Happy Now, and how it serves as a prime example of this kind of emotional abuse. The song begins with Glinda saying, "I hope you're happy now," which seems supportive on the surface, but quickly shifts into something far more insidious. Glinda's tone drips with passive aggression, implying that Elphaba's decision to stand up for her principles has ruined everything. For Glinda, for Oz, and even for Elphaba herself. Glinda doesn't stop there. She uses guilt as a weapon, framing Elphaba's rebellion as a betrayal of their friendship. This is a classic narcissistic tactic, shifting blame onto the victim to avoid accountability for their own actions. Meanwhile, Elphaba's response is equally heartbreaking. She doesn't lash out or defend herself. Instead, she internalizes the blame, questioning whether she truly deserves to stand up for what's right, if it means losing the people she thought cared about her. Then comes the most emotionally raw moment in the scene, Elphaba's plea to Glinda. "Think of the things we could do together," she says, her voice a mix of conviction and desperation. It's a genuine offer of partnership, one last attempt to bridge the chasm between them. But beneath the surface, it's also a cry for connection, a plea for Glinda not to abandon her to face this battle alone. And what does Glinda do? Instead of even granting Elphaba the dignity of a reply, she wordlessly takes a cape and drapes it over Elphaba's shoulders. It's a gesture that masquerades as kindness, a classic breadcrumb that Elphaba, starved for affection, accepts without question. But to Glinda, the cape is not a symbol of solidarity. It's a dismissal, a way of distancing herself from Elphaba while still appearing benevolent. This is cruelty wrapped in the guise of compassion, a move that leaves Elphaba more isolated than ever. This moment is the perfect illustration of the push and pull dynamic in narcissistic relationships. The breadcrumb of the cape keeps Elphaba tethered, even as Glinda refuses to stand with her. It's a cruel reminder that even in her boldest moment, Elphaba is still yearning for validation from someone who will never truly give it. If gaslighting is a weapon meant to erode someone's sense of reality, the smear campaign is its cruel counterpart, a tactic designed to destroy their connections to others. It's one of the most devastating tools in a narcissist's arsenal, and its effects are uniquely isolating. For survivors, the pain of a smear campaign is twofold. On one hand, there's the betrayal. People you trusted, confided in, or even considered family can be turned against you seemingly overnight. On the other hand, there's the suffocating loneliness. By design, the smear campaign cuts the victim off from their support network, leaving them vulnerable, silenced, and utterly alone. What makes this tactic so effective is that the narcissist ensures their victim never gets the chance to tell their side of the story. They work tirelessly to discredit the victim, poisoning the well before they even have the opportunity to speak. The result? The narcissist retains total control of the narrative, casting themselves as the victim or hero while their target is painted as the villain. Elphaba's story captures this reality with haunting clarity. As soon as she defies the wizard's authority, the wheels of his smear campaign begin to turn. He doesn't just label her a criminal, he paints her as something monstrous, wicked, dangerous, a threat to everything Oz holds dear. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of a smear campaign is how convincingly it disguises truth as lies. The wizard and Madame Morrible don't fabricate wild, unbelievable stories about Elphaba. They take her actions and reactions, strip them of context, and recast them in the worst possible light. Saving the lion cub, rewritten as an act of chaos. Rejecting the wizard, spun as proof of her treachery. And the world believes it. Even Glinda, who knows the truth, doesn't refute the lies. In fact, she enables them, using her newfound platform to reinforce the narrative. This is the ultimate betrayal. Not just by someone Elphaba trusted, but by someone who benefits from her fall. The psychological toll of a smear campaign is staggering. Survivors are left questioning their own worth, replaying every moment, wondering if they truly deserve the isolation they've been forced into. The worst part? Even when they know the truth, the lies still echo in their mind, reinforcing the wounds already inflicted by years of abuse. This is, without a doubt, one of the most profoundly damaging aspects of narcissistic abuse. Speaking personally, I can say that no other part of the experience broke me quite like this did. To be cut off, isolated, and vilified by people I cared about, not because of what I had done, but because of the narrative someone else had created, left wounds that may never fully fade. For many survivors, like me, this is the hardest part of the journey. The devastation of seeing people they cared about turn their backs on them can feel insurmountable. The isolation created by the smear campaign often leaves scars that linger long after the abuse ends. This utterly breaks some people. Elphaba's resilience in the face of this betrayal is both inspiring and heartbreaking. She doesn't waste time trying to convince anyone of her innocence. Instead, she channels her pain into purpose, embracing her identity as the Wicked Witch, not because it's who she is, but because it's who the world insists she must be. This is the ultimate lesson for survivors. You may not always be able to control the narrative others create about you, but you can define who you are in the face of it. Before we dive into the song Defying Gravity as a metaphor for survival, we need to confront an uncomfortable truth. For most survivors of narcissistic abuse, there is no fairy tale ending. The devastation caused by true clinical narcissists often feels insurmountable. These individuals are relentless, cunning, and profoundly committed to ensuring their victims never escape the shadow of their abuse. Family courts, social circles, and even mental health professionals are often unwittingly complicit in enabling their destruction. Why? Because narcissists are master manipulators. They lie with confidence, charm with ease, and craft narratives so compelling that the victim's truth sounds unbelievable by comparison. How could someone be so cruel? How could anyone spend years, even decades, systematically dismantling another person's life? But that's the reality. Narcissists aren't just capable of this behavior, they thrive on it. They use tools like financial and litigatory abuse, draining their victims financially through endless legal battles, denying resources, or hoarding shared finances to control. Role reversal storytelling. They often tell the truth, but with the roles reversed, casting themselves as the victim and their actual victim as the abuser. In doing so, they manipulate even trained therapists into believing their lies. This tactic isolates the victim, leaving them without a support system. But the most insidious part? Narcissists genuinely delight in their victims' pain. They thrive on their suffering as much as they do on their devotion. It's all supply to them, fuel for their ego, validation of their power. They're like vampires, addicted to the emotional chaos they create. This isn't hyperbole, it's reality. Narcissists destroy families, even their own, manipulate court systems, and alienate parents from their children. They target their closest relationships, their spouses, best friends, even their own kids. Because the closer you are, the more devastating the discard will be. And make no mistake, they're enjoying it. These individuals hate themselves more deeply than anyone ever could. Behind their perfectly crafted mask is a person who sees the truth of their own emptiness. But instead of seeking help or change, they turn their self-loathing outward, punishing those closest to them. It's this truth, the raw, unflinching reality of what survivors endure that makes escape feel impossible. How do you climb out of a hole when the world above has been convinced it doesn't exist? That's why it's so critical to educate people about the subtle red flags of narcissistic behavior before it's too late. The charming friend who never takes accountability, the coworker who uses others' achievements to climb higher, the partner whose kindness always comes with conditions. These are signs, and recognizing them early can save lives. But for those who've already fallen into the narcissist's trap, survival is its own act of rebellion. To defy the odds and rise above their abuse is nothing short of miraculous. And that brings us to Defying Gravity. For years, this song has been celebrated as an anthem of empowerment and self-liberation. But for survivors of narcissistic abuse, it's so much more than that. It's a battle cry. A reminder that even in the darkest of times, you can find the strength to rise. Let's break it down. When Elphaba sings, "Something has changed within me," something is not the same. She's not just talking about rejecting the wizard or Oz's corrupt system. She's talking about rejecting all the lies that have been fed to her, about herself, her worth, and her potential. Survivors know this moment well. It's the shift from believing you're powerless to realizing that, despite everything, you still have a spark left inside you. It's the moment you decide that enough is enough. I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. Narcissists are masters at creating invisible rules. Rules that keep you small, rules that make you question every choice, every word, every action. Elphaba's declaration here is a rejection of those rules. She's done being manipulated, she's done being controlled, and she's done playing a part in a game that was never designed for her to win. Too late for second guessing, too late to go back to sleep. Once you see a narcissist for who they really are, there's no going back. That clarity is both a blessing and a curse. You can't unsee the truth. You can't undo the damage, but you can refuse to let it define you anymore. And then comes the most iconic line of all. It's time to trust my instincts, close my eyes, and leap. For survivors, this leap isn't just about leaving an abusive situation. It's about trusting yourself again. Narcissists are experts at making you doubt your own reality. They gaslight you into believing their version of the truth, their version of you. To leap is to reclaim your intuition, your voice, your identity, and then the refrain, I'm defying gravity. This isn't just a metaphor for breaking free, it's a call to rise above the lies, above the pain, above the fear that has kept you trapped. It's about proving, if only to yourself, that you are so much more than what they tried to make you believe. But here's the thing, defying gravity is not easy. It takes every ounce of courage you have. It takes fighting through the trauma that weighs you down, the self-doubt that whispers you're not strong enough, the isolation that makes you feel like you're doing it all alone. And for survivors, it often comes with consequences. Just as Elphaba becomes the Wicked Witch in the eyes of Oz, survivors are often vilified for standing up to their abuser. The smear campaigns intensify. The flying monkeys multiply. The narcissist will stop at nothing to drag you back down. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. You're not just surviving, you're extraordinary, just like Elphaba. Narcissists don't target people because they're weak. They target people because they see something in them that's powerful, something they can never have. Your empathy, your resilience, your light. That's why they try so hard to dim it, because they're terrified of what you'll become if you realize your own strength. And here's the best part. They should be, because once you start defying gravity, once you reclaim your power, there's no stopping you. So to every survivor watching this, let this song remind you of who you are. You are not the lies they told about you. You are not the person they tried to make you into. You are extraordinary. And to the enablers and flying monkeys who might be watching, it's time to wake up. Every time you laugh at their jokes, every time you choose not to question their version of events, every time you turn a blind eye, you're complicit. You're part of the reason they get away with it. But it's not too late to change that. Stand up, speak out, and be the change you want to see. And to the narcissists who might stumble across this video, remember this. No matter how many lies you tell, the truth is always more powerful. And the people you tried to destroy? We remember our power. So yes, defying gravity is a song, but it's also a battle cry, a declaration that we can rise above, no matter how hard they try to keep us down. And that spark is all you need to start climbing. As Elphaba reaches the end of her journey, she embodies a lesson that resonates deeply for survivors of narcissistic abuse. The smear campaigns, the betrayals, the isolation, these aren't just chapters in her story. They're trials that forge her strength. Her defiance against the wizard and his enablers isn't just about rejecting oppression. It's about reclaiming her narrative. In the act of defying gravity, Elphaba symbolically sheds the lies and judgments that others have cast upon her. She rises, not in spite of her pain, but because of it. And that's the core message of her story. Survival isn't just enduring the darkness, it's finding the courage to rise above it. But this wouldn't be possible without the incredible performances that bring these characters to life. Cynthia Erivo's portrayal of Elphaba is nothing short of extraordinary. She captures not only the strength and defiance of the character, but also the vulnerability, the scars, and the quiet, enduring hope that so many survivors of abuse will recognize. Her performance moved me in ways I didn't expect, and I know it will resonate deeply with others. So, thank you, Cynthia. Ariana Grande's Glinda, on the other hand, is a brilliant and nuanced depiction of a grandiose narcissist. She shows those subtle slips of the mask they wear that show the depth of fear and insecurity that drives this disorder, reminding us that, while dangerous, they are people too. Her charm and charisma are undeniable, but beneath the sparkle, you can see the subtle manipulations and self-serving nature that define the character. It's a testament to Grande's skill that she can bring such complexity to a role that could easily be played as one-dimensional. Thanks, Ari. The crew at Ancient Lore Laboratories sure thinks you ladies made history here, and we love you both. Big time for that. Both actresses have done something truly remarkable. They've taken these larger-than-life characters and grounded them in a reality that feels deeply personal. They've created a story that not only entertains, but also challenges us to think, to feel, and to reflect on our own lives. It's a reminder that healing, though difficult, is possible. The scars we carry may never fully fade, but they don't have to define us. Like Elphaba, we can rewrite our stories. We can find strength in our pain, and we can use it to reach heights we once thought were impossible. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Wicked and the deeply human story of surviving and thriving beyond abuse. If this resonates with you, or if you know someone who might need to hear it, please share this video. And if you or someone you know is struggling with the effects of narcissistic abuse, please know that help is available. Resources like the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233, Psychology Today's Therapist Directory, and support groups on platforms like Facebook and Survivor Forum can provide guidance and support. Healing takes time, but you are not alone in this journey. And hey, if you like history and mythology, consider checking out our other content. We think it's pretty awesome. Subscribing and joining us on Patreon helps more than just the channel. It supports a creator who has actually lived through the dynamics discussed in this video, someone who understands these battles all too well. Sharing this content with you is part of reclaiming my own voice and rewriting my own history, finding purpose and creating something meaningful from years of struggle. Thanks for sticking with me on this departure from our regularly scheduled history content. Your support enables us to continue exploring ancient histories and mythology, drawing strength from these narratives to learn from the past. Until next time, stay historical, stay iconic, and I'll see you in the archives.